Hello, I'm Monty back with another episode of Once a Warrior. Today's guest was just 5 games short of the milestone of 100 for the Warriors club. He was an absolute weapon on the field and a big part of why our team went to the grand final in 2011. Feleti Mateo, thanks for your time, my man. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on and really privileged to be here.
Oh, look, there's been a lot of people asking for you to come on the show, so I'm glad it's finally going to take place. So you have got the colours on. Is that where you are? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still getting used to it. The Tigers colours. I'm here at the West Tigers. I'm part of the wellbeing team here. I look after the Pathways program. I really love this place. We got new centre of excellence here. As an ex-player, I guess I get to share the same journey as the guys that are going through it now, the guys and girls that are playing. And I found in my role now that sharing my life story or sharing experiences I've been through or I've heard about has helped normalize some of the negative things that are happening to some of the players or experiences or helping them have the tough conversations with coaches or staff or whoever they need to. Um, but yeah, I'm a strong believer that, in no time that the well-being part of the game or the mental side of the game is just as important as the physical side.
Feleti, I said you were a weapon, and it's because of moments like these.
Till slices through the middle. Mateo's still going. Mateo decides to run, lets it go, and Mateo's away. Now it's Mateo. He's going try away, and he's in. Mateo looking. There's those beautiful hands. Mateo's got it away. This is Mateo again, and that will be too good. Mateo! Feleti Mateo! Mateo, beautiful ball. Feleti Mateo!
Feleti, when you watch how deadly you were with the ball especially, what sort of memories does that bring back, man?
Just exciting times. I feel like with my time at Parramatta, I was pretty young and finding my feet in a way. And I think at the Warriors, I really enjoyed my footy. I think I had a lot of players around me that were like-minded. Man, I just really enjoyed my time at the Warriors and the style of play that we played. And obviously, from a young age, watching yourself play and watching guys like Ali, man, we wanted to try and replicate it in a way, and I think it was just really good times there that I had at the Warriors.
Never ever thought that you'd be coming over to play for the Warriors. So when did it eventuate?
So it was end of 2010, or towards the halfway through the year, where there was whispers around Parramatta that there wasn't much future for me there, which I was surprised about because I was a Parramatta junior and I grew up going for the Eels, and it was a bit heartbreaking to hear those whispers. So I looked elsewhere. I looked around the league to see who was interested, and when I heard the Warriors were interested, I was a bit taken back at first because all my journeys to New Zealand were miserable. We'd come there, we get bashed, and there just weren't fun times. We get bashed, we usually lose. It would be raining or dark, and it would be a daunting place to play. And I think I've heard Pricey on one of your episodes say the same sort of thing. And thinking about going there, I was a bit taken back at first, but then when I came over and I met Wayne Scarra was the CEO then, and met Ivan and Sponge and Tony Iro, like I felt really warm and welcoming, and along with the players that were there already, the playing roster, I just thought, man, I could see my style of footy fitting in really well there. And after speaking to Ivan and his plans for me, it felt like a really good fit. It was daunting leaving my family because I'm a bit of a mummy's boy, so that was a big challenge for me. But making the move, it was one of the best moves that I've made, and I think like the New Zealand people, even before I played a game, were so supportive. Obviously, the way I looked, I fit the part of being a New Zealand Warrior, being a Polynesian background, and a lot of people were like, welcome home, welcome home. which was nice to hear. But when I talk to them, they hear the Aussie accent and be like, "Where are you from?" So, but I jumped at the chance as soon as I felt that warmth, and I'm so glad that I did that.
You even talking to Chris and Inu at the time? Because from what I hear from him, there was a number of people that were hearing whispers. And what was happening at that club?
Yeah, it's funny because we had the same management team, different managers, same management team, and then we found out that we're both talking to the Warriors. We got quite excited that we could go there together as a bit of a package, and we actually broke the news to our teammates at Parramatta together. So it felt a bit better for me to go there with someone that I knew. I did know a few boys there at the time, so it was comforting to know some familiar faces as well.
It was funny because Krisnan had a different story, as he does. He's a storyteller, and he says you guys didn't even know that you were going to be over and signing for the Warriors at the same time until it was one day before training when you were making an announcement to the squad. You did a 3-2-1 at the same time, say which club you're going to, and you both said Warriors. How much truth in that story from Krisnan?
Yeah, there was a bit of truth, but I'll probably, because he was like a little brother, I let on that I didn't know, and I probably did know. So, like you said, he's a bit of a storyteller. So I let him tell his stories, and we did break it to the team together. And we ended up living together when we first came over. And Chris had some ties to some people, some family in New Zealand as well. So he made a few introductions to me to some family that helped me transition. There was one of his cousins ran a pub up in Herne Bay there. We stayed just off the edge of Ponsonby Road, and we'd often find ourselves in the pub, probably too long than we should have been, but very good meals. Mate, I'll tell you about Chris. When we were at Parramatta together, he got given money to go do some groceries for where he lived with one of the boys, and he came back with, in true Chris Inu fashion, with lollies, tiny teddies, chocolate flavored milk instead of bread and milk, and the essentials. So that's the sort of kid Chris was. He's married and got a kid now, so I hope he's changed his ways a bit, because, man, what a big kid he was.
Well, your debut match is always special no matter who you play for, but it's extremely special when you play against your old club. Do you remember that game? What do you remember about it? I mean, 38,500 people down there at Eden Park.
Yeah, I remember that game fondly. And we wore the all black jerseys, I believe. I think it was the first time that sponsored I think Vodafone had changed the colours on the jersey, just to black and white. Beautiful, one of my favourite jerseys still. And we had 1,000 jerseys at the Warriors, and I felt like I was playing for the All Blacks as well. It was pretty cool. I remember the crowd being massive. There's massive hype. Eden Park is like, what a stadium, unbelievable. And that was a massive occasion. Had all my family fly over from Australia. Everything was perfect except for the result. So when they're close mates, you just want that one a little bit more than other battles. But I just remember being so frustrated with the result. Like, I think when you get to about 10 to go and you know the game's gone, you get a bit sour. So I think I was going after people that I knew and trying to put in a bit extra into tackles and a few face rubs and whatnot.
I think it was probably a perfect match. Your X factor, your ability, plus the flair with the Warriors. Is that where you saw it, and was that a big reason to why you come over?
I loved watching the Warriors of old and the style of play. I know a lot of people call it, the Warriors warrior ball or whatever it is, but it's just so appealing for me. And at times I've been coached by people in the past that tried to restrict that, like my offloading ability or playing what I saw, playing within structures. I wish I knew how to play within structure a lot more, but my strength was always playing off the cuff and seeing what was in front of me and taking the opportunity. And I really got that opportunity at the Warriors. So I was really grateful that I had an opportunity like that and had people around me that were, like I said, like-minded in the way that we played. And I think that showed with the success that we had throughout 2011.
It seemed to be that everyone wanted to run off you. And we're not just talking about when you're playing 6, we're talking about when you're playing 11 as well. They would seek you out and they would find you. I mean, 85 offloads in your first year as well.
Yeah, I sort of had a motto for myself that I refuse to play the ball. So if you follow me, you may get an offload. But Yeah, I don't know what it was. People have asked me a lot over the years, what was it about the offload? Why were you good at it? And I guess I couldn't really put my finger on it. Now, now when I'm coaching guys or helping guys out, I try and explain things that I may have kept in mind, like creating space or your footwork or whatever it was. But at the time, really, I'm not too sure what it was mentally, what I was trying to do, but it always come off for me. Well, not always, I should say, because there's probably a few went to ground or didn't go to hand. But a lot of good offloaders need support play because like who can you support? Who can you offload to if they're not there? And there was a little bit of what I was saying earlier about gelling with each other and knowing what other people's attributes were. People realising I could offload, but if you follow me, then we could get a bit of joy out of it.
Jimmy Maloney, James Maloney, I mean, you're an absolute powerhouse with them. When did you sort of form that combination and what did you like about him? And did you have your own sort of language? Because at times it was just instinctive, I guess.
Yeah, I can 100% confidently say that every time we hooked up, it was never planned. It was never planned. It was all off the cuff. It was me probably dancing across the field because I didn't want to get tackled, and him just being an instinctive player like he was and hitting a hole for me. We may have spoken about how we could mold it in the way that would be effective, most effective. So whether it would be timing or where I'd put a pass, it'd be out in front of him or on his chest or whatever I could try and do to help him. But yeah, none of it was planned. But man, what a player! And like I think the success that he's had across all of the NRL has been unbelievable, and he probably owes the Warriors a fair bit of that for what he started at the Warriors. But I think the way he took it in his own hands at different clubs deserved the accolades that he got throughout his career.
First year came to club 2011. It was the same year that Shaun Johnson debuted. Did you think he was going to be so good?
No, I don't know. I don't know if I knew then how good he was going to be. We used to call him Princess in the early days, so I don't know if that gave him too much hope. But there was some moulding around Shaun that he won't admit to. But mate, I had to have some hard conversations with him along the year. He was a good listener. He's always been a good bloke, very good character, very honourable person on and off the field. I think early on, realising the sort of people he had around him, he was very good at listening and taking in information. For him, someone with so much potential to be a superstar at a young age, a lot of people gave him a lot of raps early. I think navigating through that is a challenge in itself. And for him to come out the other end the way he is now and playing some of his best footy ever, like I really take my hat off to him. He's always been a role model for the game on and off the field. And obviously what he's done on the field's been incredible.
Feleti, you're a part of a very special Eels side that went away to the grand final but was unsuccessful. 2011, you went to grand final as well. But when did you know that it was a special team, or when did you know that you were on that journey, that this could be a team just as good as the Eels side that went there?
I don't know if there was a point, but we started off 0-3. So there's probably some alarm bells at the start of the year. But I think when we started to learn how to play with each other, like for myself, I was on the left edge, but I'd often creep across the field to find Jimmy Maloney pushing into a hole for me. And then you had like Lance O'Hire or Aaron Heremiah would be played through the ruck. And for myself, I'd often come off the edge because I could find opportunities playing with those guys at hooker. Most of the things that came off weren't really planned. It was just a feeling or, a nod of the head, and you knew he was going to do this, so I'm going to support here. And those are the best feelings in teams, especially like in defence, when you can look shoulder to shoulder and you've got guys that can support you, and you just feel like, nah, they're not coming through us today. I know you could appreciate that feeling when you're in good teams, and I just remember feeling so solid within that group of players that year.
Aaron Heremiah, we haven't spoken about him enough. He is a grand final hooker, starting hooker. What made him special? Because he's one of the first names you mentioned.
I think his skill level and creativity around the ruck, he could come out one side have a whole edge and D come up in the defensive line and then come back the other way. He was so crafty around the ruck, and those are the sorts of guys that I loved playing with, because they could do so much, and all you'd have to do is hit a hole, and it makes you look good. So and mate, defensively, he held his own as well for a little guy in the middle. Um, Unbelievable. Same thing as you said. I don't think he got enough accolades for what he did in that year.
What were the important cogs in the wheel that got you guys to 2011 grand final?
I really believe like the traveling that we had to do throughout that year helped us. I loved traveling. I loved being in hotels and team rooms and activities where the teams would be together. Mate, you could walk down a hotel corridor where we're staying and have 4 or 5 doors open where boys are just playing PlayStation or playing cards. And mate, those sort of activities is what bring teams together, sharing meals together. I really embraced that, and I thought that was a big advantage for us at the time, especially the semi-final series. I think the fact that we were away from home, we were away from our comfort zone. It was win or go home. I think that was what really brought us together, was leaning on each other. I think the coaching staff did a really good job of making us see that. Tony Oro's speech about burning the boats. The boats have left the shore of New Zealand. We're not going home until we come back with the title. And I remember that speech when he brought it up, and I remember just the feeling of, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it brought us close together, and being in each other's pockets every day. You can't do anything, but you're forced to be together. So I think that's where we created our bonds, and it made us tighter on the field, which made you want to work harder for the person next to you.
What do you remember of the final series, and what you liked, or perhaps what you would have liked to have done better?
I guess the first game where we got beat by Brisbane, I think it was 40-10 or 40, something like that. I remember wearing the white strip with black shorts, which we hadn't done all year. Okay. And I don't know if it was myself only, but it's like the whole team. I don't know, it was like a superstitious thing. That's all I remember from that game that we probably shouldn't have done, and we ended up losing. I think everyone knew within themselves what needed to be better. The coaching staff did a good job in gathering us together to get us prepared for the next week. We had to grind that win against the Tigers because I think we came from behind. I remember scoring a try too in that second half, so I was happy about that. And I remember the try that Chris scored in the corner almost near full time, where he bobbled it, regained it, scored it. I just remember that feeling we're going to Melbourne and we're gonna get them. And I remember the feeling of going to Melbourne knowing that the only way we're going to win is by almost not playing our brand of football and playing a grinding style of football. And that's what we did. We grinded the game out. I don't even think I had an offload, which is pretty rare. I just tucked the ball under, and I knew my job was just, we need to complete with these guys, take our opportunities when we did. And people would have expected us to throw the ball around, all these sorts of things. And we just stuck to our game plan. We grinded the game out. There's that famous play that Sean ran across the field, dummied. He actually dummied to me, which I was filthy about. But then when he found Lewis Brown and then he scored in the corner, I was just like, I just remember that feeling, the boys running on the field, hugging each other, just a sense of accomplishment. And knowing we're going to the big dance that was really special, really, really special. And something, even though we didn't win the comp, just having those memories and remembering those emotions is the reason why we play the game. I think it's anything in life. Like if you achieve a goal that you've set out to try and achieve, like it's so sweet. But when you do it on a big stage like that with your brothers, like we consider ourselves brothers, so it's everything's just heightened by 1,000%. It's hard to put into words.
You had 4 coaches in 4 years. That's tough, but you've seen a lot from them. So if you had to put your perfect coach together in terms of a trait from this coach, a trait from that coach, what would they be? Just quickly.
I think Cappy would be like his firmness. I'd say Matty Elliott, his strategic side of it, he's very good analyzer of the game. Bluey would get the best out of you, no matter what. You maybe want to run through a brick wall. And then Ivan's demeanour, like he would just really cool if we get into panic situations. We follow our process, do our job. So I think I summed that up pretty good,
Absolutely pretty good. Feleti, you were brought over to the club for your ball playing ability. I don't think you were brought over for your durability. 76 games in a row. And like I said, you're only 5 games off a milestone of 100. How were you so durable? Were you always that way?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure why. I guess a lot has to go into looking after your body. People that play with me probably wouldn't call me the best trainer, but I guess now looking back, I think a lot I have to owe to was playing different sports. I used to play a lot of street ball, basketball down by the viaduct. We'd have some courts down there, and I'd go down there regularly at night and play basketball. We'd just pick up games, and I feel like that may have helped me, I don't know, I guess stay loose physically and mentally. I was getting the sweat up, but I was away from footy. I'd probably put it down to that.
I think it was Cappy who said that you probably weren't the best trainer. Was it that idea to not train like Tarzan and play like Jane? Because Mark Graham used to tell that to me all the time. Don't be a guy that trains like Tarzan and plays like Jane. For you, maybe you train like Jane, but you play like Tarzan.
I'm a big believer in that saying, Tarzan and Jane. And I'd also hear like people rumbling about if we had to do a big pool session, it's like, when do we swim on the field? Or, like trying to keep it relatable to what we're doing on the field. But yeah, I was never the best trainer, especially long distance running or any running. As soon as there was a football butt, that's when I lit up. And, there was something about playing footy that just, when I had a ball in my hands, is when I felt most comfortable. So yeah, I wasn't the best trainer, and I'll admit that. I'll put my hand up for that. But yeah, come game time, that's when the lights are on. That's when I used to love it.
5 games off a massive milestone, which is 100 games for the club. Do you wish you went on? Maybe you left a little bit too soon.
Yeah. It was conflicting for me. I signed for 3 years when I first came to New Zealand. I re-signed for another 3 years, so my plan was to be there for 6 years. And unfortunately, in my first year of re-signing, things didn't go the way I wanted, and some changes in staff and whatnot, and it saw me have to leave the club. But coming into training, and anyone that's been in the gym there in New Zealand, you can see the wall of Centurions, and I knew I was never going to be on the other wall with the players of the year. So it would have been nice to be on the wall with the Centurions. And when you look up there, there's guys that have, legends of the game, let alone New Zealand football. So it's probably one of my regrets that I didn't stay longer and just, tough it out and try and get that 100 games. Because like I said earlier, my time in New Zealand, I absolutely loved it. I loved the club, the people there, everything about it. I couldn't say a bad word about my time in New Zealand.
Feleti, once a Warrior, always a Warrior. You were a gifted player and was an integral part of the reason the Warriors went to the grand final in 2011. Thank you for your service, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I'm Monty Beetham. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Once a Warrior.
Mateo slices through the middle. Mateo's still going. Mateo decides to run, lets it go, and Mateo's away. Now it's Mateo. He's going try away, and he's in. Mateo looking. There's those beautiful hands. Mateo's got it away. This is Mateo again, and that will be too good. Mateo! Feleti Mateo! Mateo, beautiful ball.